Welcome back, my fellow patriots, to the Save Our Republic Daily video series. Today we are moving to the 18th Amendment, which is one we don't really think about very much because, in fact, it's been repealed. But I'm going to talk about it in connection with the understanding that the country had about it at the time it was adopted. The 18th Amendment reads as follows. Section 1. After 1 year from the ratification of this article, the manufacture, sale, or transportation of intoxicating liquors within, the importation thereof into, or the exportation thereof from the United States and all territories subject to its jurisdiction thereof for beverages purposes is hereby prohibited. Whew, that's a long way of saying the sale, transportation, and manufacture of alcohol was prohibited. Section 2 empowered Congress to pass legislation along with the states to enforce the article. Section 3 said that it wouldn't become effective unless it was ratified within 7 years, but it was ratified within a year of when it was originally adopted. It became effective in 1912. The legislation that was implemented became effective in 1920. And I'm going to outline some of the arguments about why alcohol was seen to be a terrible chemical/drug, and why it had so much momentum in the country to become illegal. I will note one thing. It wasn't illegal to use it. So if you had some, like a stockpile of it, you could drink it. You couldn't sell, manufacture, or import it. But if you already had it, you could drink it. There was also an exception for medical purposes. So there was a lot of interesting medicinal use of alcohol, and there were some other exemptions such as for the sacrament in church and things like that. So it wasn't a total ban of the use, but pretty close. Some of the arguments that were used why it should be banned included that it was a habit-forming drug, and that is absolutely true. It undermines people's willpower. In other words, you drink and then you might do things that you otherwise wouldn't do. And as a judge, I can tell you there are many crimes that are committed when someone is under the influence of intoxicating liquor or some other kind of substance, which probably would never have happened but for that. Another argument is that your willpower gets weakened over time with every drink, for example. The argument was that you lost a little bit of yourself each day, that this in fact became a form of slavery, that people were addicted to it, and that some people call it the liquor lobby or monopoly, would really had control over the lives of people because they were addicted and had to spend enormous amounts of money making businesses rich at the expense of those who were addicted. It degenerated the character of people. It was insidious, habit-forming drug that degenerated the character of men and weakened down their spiritual character and morals. Some argued that it reversed the life principle of the universe. That is that man had slowly but surely became more civilized, and then you drink and you become less civilized. That it enabled people, or enabled may not be the right term, sparked crime, violent crime. That it also was a tragedy because people lost their dignity, that people would lose their jobs and their homes, and that crime would occur because of that. And then, of course, drunk driving doesn't seem to have been a huge issue independently of the Prohibition movement, but obviously we know that drunk driving can be very, very serious. And of course, in my courtroom, unfortunately, I've had many people slain by the use of intoxicating liquor. So the country banded together and passed an amendment, which is really the only amendment that went against liberty that we've ever had in our country. In other words, it took away the rights of people to manufacture, sell, advertise, by alcohol. And but it was done with the purpose of trying to preserve the dignity of mankind, character, fight crime, all those things that I've mentioned. There was a huge, long movement towards this. This was not a snap decision. It was part of the Reformation that started with, for example, attacking slavery, trying to enfranchise women, trying to otherwise clean up society, to ascend towards a higher state of mankind. And this was a great reform movement. There was there were many states that had already adopted bans of alcohol in one fashion or another. There was an anti-saloon league. There was an enormous amount of special interest groups that were pressuring for this elimination. During World War I, excuse me, there was a ban on alcohol production because they wanted to use the grain that was being used for alcohol. And you might say, well, there's other ways to do it, but the grain was being used to feed the soldiers, and so they wanted to ban the production of alcohol because of that. So this was a monumental decision across the nation, and what you might call a grand and noble experiment to attack one of the underlying evils in our society, and that the idea was that a dry, sober society would be more virtuous and have a remedy of many of the evils that were percolating throughout the country. Until next time, don't forget about America's Survival Guide, americasurvivalguide.com, Patriot Week at patriotweek.org, the Patriot Lessons American History and Civics podcast, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. God bless you, and God bless America.